Welcome to another edition of In Conversation. Today's special guest is Mr. Jimmy Waldo. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So, yeah, it's great to finally get to talk to you. You're such a long history here of interesting projects and bands you've been involved with over the long period of time here. And I guess we'll start with Blackthorne because that's the main thing that we're trying to let people know about here. Give us the rundown on this new CD release with Blackthorne.
The Afterlife CD was the original album that came out and in the 90s, I think. Uh, anyway, they we wanted to re-release that, and a label wanted to do it, and then we our manager had dug around in my garage and found all these tapes that I'd forgotten about. All these Blackthorne tapes, cassettes, reel to reels, DAT tapes, um, old CDs of all these songs, demos of songs and stuff. So when we put it all together, and he cleaned everything up and organized it all, and then it was like, well, there's a whole nother record here we never did. So we decided to put it out. We found it about 2 years ago, and it took a while to get it organized. He had to go through a lot of takes of different songs. There would be cassettes of demos that we'd be doing. We did the demos at my house, most of them at the time, and we might record, on 16 track, we'd be recording, and we get halfway through a song, and then we'd stop. And we didn't care about it. We were just like, okay, that's not working. Let's go, let's do that chorus again. And so some of the tapes were unfinished. So he had to go through all that stuff. We had the 16 track things transferred to Pro Tools, and then it was easier to edit and find out what was what and all that stuff. So, but I just wanted to get the stuff out there. A lot of good songs, and I was really proud of what Bob and I did. Back then we worked hard at putting all that material together, and it was a thrill for me to know that it was going to come out. It was great. So,
All right, now this one takes, like you said, the original release of Afterlife, and then I guess the other one is Don't Kill the Thrill.
yeah.
Okay, now is it the same band that played on both albums, the same personnel?
Well, yes and no. Frankie Banelli and Chuck Wright played on the album. The other material was never recorded. That was mostly just drum machine, programmed drums, because they were originally intended as just demos. They weren't, and then some of them we had multi-track so we could remix them for Don't Kill the Thrill, but most of it was done with a drum machine. So it was intended to be that Frankie and Chuck would have played on it if we got that far, but we never
Okay.
got that far. So um, it was me playing drums and Bob playing bass usually.
Okay, now interesting. I was reading the credits on the track listing for the second CD, Don't Kill the Thrill, and I noticed a lot of them had David and Glenn Isley had help you guys co-write a lot of that album there. How did that all come about?
Yeah, well, Dave was excuse me, an old friend of Bob's for years, and I knew of Dave, and I always liked his singing. So as things progressed, um, some of those songs got used later on, and Dave got involved and wrote lyrics and melodies. We didn't get to use them for Blackthorne the originals, so we used them for Murderers Row. But but the what you're hearing there was intended for Blackthorne. So we did give Dave credit, because later on Dave did write lyrics and melodies to those. So we didn't think it was fair to put that piece of music on there, even though they weren't intended for Murderers Row. It's a little confusing, but so we gave Dave credit because Dave's a great writer. When we went on to do Murderers Row, Dave wrote all the lyrics and melody, and he killed it. He did a great job on that. So, but yeah, that Don't Kill the Thrill was kind of Blackthorne, 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 and then we were going to steal some of that to do Murderers Row. So it
So
was
that
sort of transitional period, you'd call it, I suppose.
now that how did you arrive at Murderers Row? Because that was a little bit further down the road, right?
It was right after Blackthorne. We did the first Blackthorne album on Polydor in Japan, and they gave us a really nice advance, and we got a publishing advance, and we were set to do the next Blackthorne record. So they gave us another advance, and we were ready to go, and Graham quit. So after we got the advance and he got his money, he left. And so left Bob and I holding the bag, so to speak. And we had spent, a lot of time and money in studios and stuff at that point, just putting the demos together. We did a lot of it at my house, and then we'd go into a studio and cut some of that stuff. And but after Graham left, and then Frankie and Chuck got busy. They started touring, so they weren't available right away. But we hadn't planned on doing the Blackthorne. That Blackthorne record would have taken, probably 3 or 4 months before we could have gotten into the studio, because we would have kept writing. Bob and I were always writing. So what would have happened is when the Japanese gave us the new advance for the new one, we would have gotten that money and immediately started writing more material. And then we would have picked from some of what you hear on Don't Kill the Thrill, and then we'd have had some new material. But then Graham left, so that screwed everything up. And Chuck and Frankie couldn't wait around, so they had tours. So they were touring. So then we decided to get Dave Glenn Isley to sing, and we didn't want to call it Blackthorne, so we called it Murderers Row. And we got a deal on a small label in Japan, and we got Jay Shellen played drums on that. Who's played with a ton of people. And the bass, what's wrong with me? Well, actually, Chuck ended up playing some bass on that in the end, Chuck Wright, because he came back from touring. Frankie was still out, so we couldn't use Frankie, unfortunately. But so then we did the Murderers Row record. And same thing, though. We were wrong place, the wrong time. The grunge thing just was way happening by then. And it didn't do well in Japan. The label in Japan, that was a very small label. They didn't have it together at all. This lady that had the label was having problems, financial problems and stuff. So the record never really got much of a shot over there. And it certainly didn't do anything here in the States again.
Did you guys get a chance to tour with the Murderers Row lineup at all?
No, did nothing. Because agents wouldn't book us. We weren't, all the agencies at the time were into the grunge thing. So if you didn't fit that, man, you were out of luck. You couldn't play. I mean, all we could do, if we'd have wanted to, we could have played a few bars around LA, but it wasn't worth wasting our time. It just wasn't worth it.
That's a shame, because it seems like it's not the only time you've ran into the changing music scene to end up hurting you.
Oh, let me tell you. Yeah. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. It's a brutal world out there sometimes. And if you try to second guess it, you try to figure it out, and if you could, everybody'd be famous, but you just can't. You write good songs, and it's a good band, you make a great record. That's all you can do. And I was never into, I never was into jumping on the bandwagon, like, oh, what's new out there now? Oh, Taylor Swift's big now. So let's do a pop, let's get really pop. I can't do that. Even within the genre of heavy rock, I can't just jump around and look and see who's happening, because invariably you see a band that's big and you go, wow, that's what's in right now. So now you start patterning yourself after that and trying to copy that. By the time you get that together and make a record, then time has moved on. So now that's not in fashion anymore. So now you're late again, you know. So you're better off just doing, play and write from the heart and don't worry about it. And that's what we did. Bob and I had written, a lot of stuff and knew each other for a long time. And we knew we were right in sync with what we wanted to do. So we just did what we felt was right. Same with Murderers Row. I mean, even though we'd gotten killed on Blackthorne with the grunge thing, we still didn't want to try to be a grunge band. We just stuck to our guns and we said, we're just going to write songs. And we wrote with some outside writers as well. And we were all just writing what was good for us and what felt good to us, not worried about the scene out there.
Right. So you had mentioned prior to us coming on the air live here about the Blackthorne. You never really got to do too many shows under that banner.
No.
Just basically around the California area, you were saying?
Yeah, we played, we played San Francisco. We played San Jose, I think. Up the coast. We played 2 or 3 shows up the coast like that, just little clubs. And then we did play in Phoenix at a club in Phoenix. But again, none of those shows sold any tickets. We didn't do well. So the agency that had booked them wouldn't book us anymore. They just said, guys, we can't book you because you don't draw people. So it's a really good band. It's too bad,
Yeah.
but and good songs, but the music scene was just not into what we were doing at the time.
Now, did you guys make any videos or anything for that album at all?
No. Bob and I and Graham went to Japan to promote that Blackthorne record, the first one, Afterlife. And we did play acoustically over there. And there's some YouTube stuff of that, but we didn't make any videos. There was nobody would pay. In those days, the video was expensive. I mean, to make a real video costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's not like today, you just take an iPhone and you're all set. But back then, everybody was competing, about with their video. So like if Aerosmith made a video that had this amazing theme and set, then, well, man, we got to make one like Aerosmith. So everybody expected your video to be, $1 million video. And the fans don't think about it. They don't care. They just expect you to be world class, and they don't understand the budgets and the money. And, if you don't have the money, you don't have the money. So we never made one.
Now, was there a track that was ever released to radio at all?
No, because we had nobody, we had no label in the States. Eventually, God, what was it? I can't remember the name of the label. Somebody did distribute it, but that was way later. But there was nobody when the album came out. There was no label to promote it or to get something on radio. And in those days, if you didn't have a label, you're not going to get on the radio. I mean, that was KLOS world,
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to KLOS with a record and say, hey, we want to get this on the radio, they would laugh at you and say, well, what label are you on? And, well, we don't have a label. And they go, well, not going to happen.
Now, was there a song that you guys were high on that were hoping to get played?
A couple of them. Afterlife, the title track, which we really liked, and I wrote that with Bob, and really hoping that would have been a good choice for a single. And also, We Won't Be Forgotten.
Yeah.
I love that song. That was written by Bruce Kulick and Paul Taylor of Winger.
Hmm.
So, and I just loved it. Bruce and Bob wrote it, obviously. So Bob played it for me, a demo that they had done, and I just loved it. So we cut it. And I thought, man, what a great radio track. Real anthemic, good groove, real heavy, straight ahead. I thought really cool lyric that I thought would work.
Yeah.
Uh, Not so much.
Well, you got a live unplugged version on this on the as a bonus track on the CD, which man, I was it sounded like something I heard before. It's sounds like
Uh,
it would belong somewhere on the radio, you know?
we won't be forgotten.
Yep.
Yeah, I know it, and I thought the same thing. I thought, wow, this song is just it's a natural. It's like
Yeah.
it just feels good. It's one of those, and we were, yeah, and we shopped that. Bob and I knew record executives at big labels.
Hmm.
We had relationship. We could get in to see these people. It wasn't a problem, and they just said, really sorry guys, we just can't do anything with it. And in most cases, they would listen to the song and it was like they weren't even listening because they'd already made up their mind because the style wasn't right. So you know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah.
And so we were just
Crazy.
shut out. We just got shut out immediately.
All right, well, let's go back to the beginning here where you started kind of, well, sort of, at least big league
Okay.
wise, with New England. Tell us how you came about with that band, how they started breaking through here.
Um, well, we put that band together in Boston, started in about 75, where the people in New England were playing it. We had a band back then in Boston with a singer, and then the singer left, and then we stayed together, but we didn't play anywhere. We just rehearsed. We quit playing clubs because we felt that was a waste of time. So we just rehearsed and wrote songs and made our own demos at home, on 4 track. And we did that for about 3 years and kept sending them out to people and sending them out to people. And we finally reached someone, a promotion guy for Elektra Records, heard us, and he loved it. So he knew somebody that worked with Bill O'Coin, the big manager, managed Kiss. So he took it to him, and it was within 3 or 4 days that they went, love it. And Rick Aliberti, that guy, and Bill O'Coin came up to see us in rehearsal in Boston. They flew up, saw us, and Bill just said right on the spot, I want to manage you guys. Let's do this. And we talked about the plan, what we might do, and it was just from there on. We were on, and Bill got involved, and then he started shopping our demo immediately, and we had every major label at the time came up to see us in Boston at our rehearsal hall. We just had a funky little rehearsal place south of Boston in Braintree. And Clive Davis came down there and spent the evening with us. And we played the whole set for him twice and listened to his comments. And he was unbelievably cool and had a lot of really brilliant things to say about the arrangements and stuff. So we did all that. And then we ended up signing with Infinity Records and got Paul Stanley as a co-producer. Paul was a great choice because Paul's a rock guy. We didn't want, we had looked at some other producers, and I won't name any names, but these guys were all wanted to change the band. They
Hmm.
immediately wanted to get their stamp on us, and they had all these big ideas for the arrangements and songs, and they wanted to get involved in some songwriting. And the record company even said, don't touch the songs. We love the songs the way they are. Don't fix it if it works. We just need somebody to helped make the record. And so Paul Stanley was great. Paul and Mike Stone co-produced it from Queen. He had done the Queen records. Those guys, Paul being a real rock guy, all Paul cared about was like keep the songs, make it feel good, make the arrangements correct. Let's really look at the arrangements, and stuff, but let's don't tear it apart and change what everybody likes. And that was a really important thing, and I credit Paul for that. So we made the record, and the record company was buzzing as they were hearing the tracks. They were all excited. Record came out of the box. We got a ton of airplay. I mean, immediately. Our first tour, we headlined 3,000 seaters. I mean, it was incredible. We were flying to dates our first tour. And then we jumped off that and toured with Kiss. We toured with Styx, Kansas, Cheap Trick, AC/DC, Journey. And the record just built and built and built. We got a lot more airplay. And then it stalled out at 40 in Billboard. But we went back in and started working on another record. So made the second record, which we changed direction there, which was a really bad idea. And it was not received as well. We were on Elektra. We changed labels. And it wasn't received as well as the first one because we had changed direction. Then the third record, and we toured some on that record. We toured because the band was known at this point, so we could go out and tour. We did some dates with Rush, some more dates with Cheap Trick. And then we came back and we got Todd Rundgren to produce the third record. So, which I'd always wanted to work with Todd. I just thought I loved his music, and I know people that knew him and said what a great guy and a great producer. So we worked with Todd and cut the third record up at Todd's studio, up at his house in upstate New York. And that record didn't do well either. The label didn't really put a lot into it. And so the band stayed together. We did tour some more after that and played, but then there was just no support whatsoever. And Bill Aucoin, we left Bill. So we had no management, no record deal. So the band broke up basically.
Yeah.
But we had
Now,
a good.
yeah, I mean, that first album definitely helped you out immensely. It's
Oh
just a
yeah.
shame these other record companies didn't help promote these things. Instead,
Yeah. Yeah.
just like the changing music scene, it's always something that you really have no control over, something that hurts you.
Yeah, and in all fairness to the record companies, even we changed our direction a bit on the second record, and we really shouldn't have done that. There was some stuff on there that would have fit radio, but the record company chose a song that we never intended, Explorer Suite, that song, to be on the radio. That was just a long epic thing with a lot of keyboards, and that was meant to be live, just a production thing, and they picked that for the single.
Huh.
And I was like, what are you, crazy? And it was 6 minutes long or something, and it didn't happen at all. And we knew we was like, what are you doing? And we argued with them, and they had this whole plan. No, this is going to be great, this will be different, and all this stuff. It didn't work.
So how was it opening for Kiss? That would have been like the Dynasty tour.
Yes, that was great. That was unbelievable. They treated us great, and the crews, everybody was just really cool. So that was fun. And then of course, you're playing in front of 20,000 people every night, and that was a blast. And the record was doing really good at that point. So we were getting a lot of airplay. So the crowd, like at Madison Square Garden, we walked on stage. I thought we were going to get killed at Madison Square Garden. I thought, this is Kiss's home. there's no way people are going to hate us. We walked on stage, the lights went up, and I saw people in Kiss makeup, but that had big signs with our pictures on them saying, "We love New England."
Hmm.
And my name and everybody's name on the pictures. And I was just like, it was surreal, you know. So the show went amazing. And we played Madison Square Garden and got a great response. And then we played 2 nights. Second night was just as good. So it was really cool. And Kiss really helped us a lot. I mean, that putting us on the road with them was huge.
All right, now, so now after you left New England, is that how you kind of started forming Alcatrazz pretty much?
Yeah, we New England broke up, and uh, Gary and I and Hirsch, the drummer from New England, Gary Shea, the bass player, uh, we looked for a guitar player, singer replacement, and then we listened to a lot of tapes and heard a lot of really talented people, but nothing was doing it for us. So we got hooked up. I called Gene Simmons and I said, "Gene, we need a guitar player, singer, songwriter." And Gene says, "I got the guy." So he turned us on to Vinnie Vincent,
Hmm.
or Vinnie Casano. He said, "Here's your guy." So Vinnie liked the music, our music. So he said, "Well, I want to do my stuff." So Vinnie was living in LA. Vinnie flew to Boston and we rehearsed. Vinnie loved it. And he said, "Why don't you guys come to LA?" So I had nothing keeping me in Boston anymore. So we left. Gary and I and Hirsch went to LA. And we did a demo with Vinnie. We rehearsed, put more songs together. Vinnie was the main writer, which he was writing great songs. And we auditioned singers. He wanted a singer. He sang great, but he wanted another guy. So we auditioned singers, and then we went in for CBS and cut a demo. And a really good demo at the record plant. Sounded great. And CBS passed on it. So they paid for it, but they weren't into it. So then Vinnie got asked to join Kiss.
Hmm.
So Gene Simmons had turned me on to Vinnie, but then Vinnie got asked to join Kiss, which obviously that was the smart thing to do. I mean, good move on his part. So there's no hard feelings there at all. So Vinnie joined Kiss. So at that point, Hirsch went back to Boston, the drummer, and Gary and I stayed in LA. And that's when we talked to Gary, got hooked up with Graham Bonnet's manager. And he said he's looking for a keyboard player and a bass player. So Gary and I went over and got together with Graham, and I had some song ideas. Graham had a couple song ideas. We threw some stuff around. Thought, okay, let's do this. Let's have a band. So let's make a band. So we did. And Gary came up with the name Alcatrazz, which was really cool. And the logo, Gary, the genius. So we auditioned we auditioned drummers and guitar players, and we found Yngwie Malmsteen and ultimately Jan Uvina. We auditioned a lot of drummers before we finally found Jan. And once we got them, we immediately started putting songs together. We had a rehearsal place. The record company had a beautiful rehearsal facility. So we started immediately putting material together. Yngwie and I were writing together. And so Island in the Sun was a piece of music that I had written for New England and never got cut. We never made it on a record. So we did that. Yngwie really liked it, and away we went. So made that first No Parole from Rock and Roll record. And then it was a lot like New England in that we had a great buzz. Everybody loved it. The video, made 2 videos. We did Island in the Sun and Hiroshima, Mon Amour. And Island in the Sun got a ton of MTV airplay. So right out of the
Hmm.
box, we were touring, opening for big acts. It was great and headlining a lot. So that went really good. And then the record company went under, went out of business. Rockshire went out of business. And so we were left without a label. Yngwie left the band to do his own thing, which I knew that was coming. I mean, there was no big surprise there, and we understood. So Yngwie went off to do his own record, own band, and we got Steve Vai in the band, and then we got a deal on Capitol. So made a record for Capitol, and we did tour, but that record was not successful at all. So that really didn't do anything. So then Steve, I'd laugh. Steve left the band to join David Lee Roth, which again, no hard feelings at all. That was a smart move on his part. No bad vibes on that one. And then we went to do another record for Capitol. We got Danny Johnson on guitar, and it just didn't work. It just the chemistry wasn't there. And we had been known for this guitar player thing, and we really needed to stick with that. And we sort of got off track for that third record. And so that record didn't do anything. Capitol put it out, and we did tour, but the record didn't sell at all. So then the band broke up. And I don't know, right after that, I worked with Quiet Riot. I got a gig in Quiet Riot. We were touring and making a record for them. And we toured. And that was fun. Great guys. That's where I met Frankie
Hmm.
and Chuck and Rudy. And there were a lot of people in the beginning involved. And then, but then the band settled on Sean McNabb for a live bass player. Chuck was out doing, I think at the time, Alice Cooper. Anyway, he was busy touring. But so Quiet Riot tour, we did Japan a couple times, played Guam, which was really a lot of fun. Great club. And then we played South America, which was really cool. I mean, like 30,000 kids in a soccer stadium going absolutely mental. And wasn't ready for that. Walked on stage in the middle of the day, and the sea of people. And I thought, who are they here for? What's going on? And they were freaking out. Quiet Riot T-shirts, and it was amazing. So
Now, was this with who was singing at the time for Quiet Riot?
Paul Shortino.
Paul. Okay.
Yeah. Paul and I had been writing songs together, and then he got the gig in Quiet Riot, and then he said, "Hey, why don't you come down?" And so I went down and auditioned and got the gig, and then Paul and I ended up writing for Quiet Riot. Basically, Paul and I and Carlos and Frankie put together the material for that. Did all the demos at my house and did that.
Okay. And then that pretty much takes you back to probably when you got together with the Blackthorne and everything.
Yeah, it wasn't long after that.
Yeah.
That band, Quite Right, came off the road, and they had some legal issues with their production company. I wasn't part of the band legally. I was a hired hand. So that was nothing to do with me. And so that stalled that whole thing. And that record didn't do very well. So that stalled out. So basically, I was looking for a gig. And that's Bob Kulick and I had always been in touch. And so we decided, hey, we need to do something. So that's when Bob and I decided to put Blackthorne together. And we did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so now all these years later, it looks like Alcatrazz, you got them back all back together here, and tell us about the new lineup and the new album you got coming out soon.
Um, the new lineup's great. Gary Shea, I've been playing with forever and ever as a bass player, but he wasn't involved in the last, well, the album before this. He wasn't playing with us. He was doing something else. So finally got him back for the last Alcatrazz record. He played on that. And then we went to make the new one, and Gary got involved in this one as well because he was in at that point. And we got Doogie, who has worked out just fantastic. Doogie's just an amazing guy, incredible singer, writer. His writing is off the hook, so crazy, um, and just a real pleasure to work with. And so it's a real good lineup now. Where it's just a real easy to do thing. There's no drama. It's just we all want the same thing. We're all going the same direction, which is really important. Joe Stump is a fabulous guitar player, and I love working with Joe. Great guy, and an amazing cook. I mean, that's just a bonus. Like the guy's an incredible cook. He whips stuff together. We worked at his house in Boston, and Joe will be like, okay, guys, I got something. I'm thinking of something for dinner. You know, we eat late there. We eat like 10 o'clock at night. So Joe would go, okay, we're going to do this Indian thing. And then Joe would whip up this Indian food that was amazing. So then the next night he'd go, okay, we're doing Italian tonight. And then, because he's Italian. So he would make Italian food. It was, the guy's just incredible. So we really had a blast uh, putting music together there. Gained weight, but have fun doing it. And he's always got great beer. So it was a lot of fun doing that.
Now the new album titled is it going to be called Five?
Yeah,
Okay,
comes out October 15th.
okay. What can you tell us about the album and some of the songs on there?
Um, Joe Stump was the primary writer, and Doogie. I wrote some. Giles Lavery, our manager, wrote a couple of things. He and I wrote a piece together. Then Giles wrote another one with Doogie and Joe. But it all came within the band, basically. Um, and the material was, we had about 16 or 17 songs, actually about 20 songs in the beginning to pick from.
Wow.
Narrowed it down about 16, and then 16 ended up getting chewed up to what it ended up being. Um, but the writing went real easy. Joe's writing really suits the direction we're going. I mean, that's where we're going. And the last record, Joe didn't get to write as much because he didn't join the band until about halfway through the record.
Mm.
We had some old friends play on that record, guest as writers and guitar players, Chris Pelletieri and Dario Molo and stuff, Bob Kulick, who we played with in Blackthorne. So we wanted to get Bob back in a fold to write a couple and play some guitar, and he did. So Joe wasn't as heavily involved in the writing on that one. He played on everything, but he just didn't write everything. This one, he wrote the majority of the direction sort of comes from that guitar direction. And I love it. It's really fun for me as a keyboard player to play that stuff. So this record was a good solid writing effort on everybody's part, but it's got a real it's just a more solid direction, a defined direction. We know what we want to do. We know where we were going. We knew how we wanted to do it. And so it was not that difficult. It was difficult because of the COVID thing, because nobody
Yeah.
get together. That was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But as far as the writing goes, no egos, no bullshit. It was really smooth. Uh, Doogie's a real pro. I mean, we give Doogie a piece of music, and the guy writes amazing lyrics and melody. They just bam, and they're done. He doesn't. It doesn't take him long. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he wants. Uh, very, very easy. I love working with people like that. It's so straight ahead, solid. So it was great.
So is this new album very guitar driven, would you say?
Yeah, but that's what the band is. I mean, Alcatrazz was always known for that kind of guitar playing, and so this is this is that. There's a lot of Joe is an amazing player, and when we play live, we do a lot of that No Parole record live, and Joe plays that stuff flawlessly. Uh, and he's friends with Ingve, so Joe gets it. That's Joe's style of playing. Joe's more of a European metal uh, guy than he is an American Van Halen guy. He's not
Mhm.
that. So for us, that works perfect because that's where it all started. Really, Ingve's that kind of guitar player. Um, he was never an American, so to speak, guitar player, Van Halen direction. So the band morphed into that, and that's this new album is more that way. Uh, really, a lot heavier and some more like power metal stuff on there as opposed to the last record and the ones before that.
All right, now what's the plan for touring? Have you got anything lined up yet, or is it just wait till the album
Yeah,
comes out and see?
no,
No.
we got dates. We have a tour in the UK and some festivals over there. So we got about a month of stuff to do in the UK in November. And right now, everything is a go. So if nothing happens, if this COVID thing doesn't take a left or right or do something crazy, then we'll go in November and tour the UK.
And what about U.S. plans?
Um, we never have done well in the United States, and we would need to have a package with somebody. Like we played a show with Joe Lynn Turner in Detroit a couple of years ago, and we'd played this club before, and we didn't draw very well. And we played with Joe Lynn Turner, and the place was packed. And I talked to Joe, and Joe said, same thing. He goes, yeah, when I headline on my own, I don't, there's not enough tickets. I don't sell enough tickets. So the two of us together, it worked great. And we could do that again. Um, Doogie did an album with Rainbow. Joe and
Right.
Turner was in Rainbow. So it's a double whammy there. The fans would get a good bang for the buck on that one. We're doing some stuff live off the Rainbow record that Doogie did, and some Michael Schenker stuff that Doogie did, um, and then a lot of Alcatrazz, and then new Alcatrazz. So, but yeah, we need to package up with somebody here in the States that can sell tickets also, and we'd open for somebody. We don't have any ego about opening the show for somebody. That's fine. We just want to play in front of people. A packed house, whether it's 500-seat club or a 300-seat club or 1,000 or whatever it is. It would just be great to be on a bill that people are excited and coming in the door.
Yeah, I mean that seems to be the way to go nowadays. Is try to get a couple package bands together that are similar or from
Mm-hmm.
the same era, and then
Yep.
go from there. Especially the bigger cities, you can do real well in like Cleveland, Detroit, New
Yep.
York, LA. I mean, that's, unfortunately, that's why a lot of the bands that are in your situation where they can't just go to like a small city and just play because it's hard to do on your own.
Yeah. In America, the music scene here is so different than it is in Europe and the UK. Uh, and but like it's just a different world over here. It's very the hip hop is huge, and some hip hop I really like, and some of it I don't. But beside the point, it's just hip hop really is big, country is big. And then on the pop side of things, it's, it's Miley Cyrus, Taylor
Mm.
Swift. And Miley Cyrus is incredibly talented. It's not that she's not talented, it's just that that's not what we do. So, but that kind of music is huge here. So there's just no room left between country and hip hop, and then pop. There's just no room left for rock. I mean, Metallica can tour the States and play huge venues,
Mhm.
and Iron Maiden, but we're not that yet. So for us, we'd have to team up with somebody and do that for sure.
Now, I think it seems like I don't know what's your take on it. That's what I was going to ask you here about. It seems like back in the before the CD, a lot of bands would only have like anywhere from 8 to 10 songs on an album, and then once the CD came out, a lot of these bands or the record company or whoever decided, hey, let's put on, fill it up, see how long we can fill it up to. But I feel that ever since that era, pretty much, it's like it kind of puts a lot of filler on albums, and that's to me that's one of the reasons why I feel the albums aren't as solid as they used to be. From you look back in the 70s and 80s, and you get 8 solid great songs or 10, and you can play those
Right.
all the way through.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you. We That's why we had so many songs to pick from for this album, because we didn't want to put out 12 or 13 or 14 songs of, you know, okay, here's 5 really great songs and the rest is, the style's okay, so forget about it. We really, really did want to give people their money's worth and make sure they're all good. And I'll stand behind all of them. And the ones that we didn't pick, some of those are great songs. It's just uh, tempos, keys, things are the same, very similar. So we had to, that one will go on the next record. So I'd like to think between Doogie, myself, and Joe and Giles, I mean, that's a good writing team. Uh, Doogie's very prolific, and so is Joe. And I love writing with those guys. It's a lot of fun. So we don't put filler on records. I mean, that definitely. And Giles, our manager, he's incredibly picky about that. I mean, he hears a weak song or something he doesn't think fits, he's all over us about it, going, guys, that's not gonna work. We need better. You got to do better. You got to do better. We can't have any dogs on this record. It's got to be all A material. So that's what we really try to do. But I agree, it seems anyway, there's a lot of records that have come out in the last 10 years or so that are, wow, a lot of filler. 1 or 2 good songs, and the rest is just like, wow, guys, what are you thinking? It's as though some bands, the style is good and maybe it's got one great riff or something, but the actual song, and we're more old school where it's got to be a good song. You really got to be able to sit down with an acoustic guitar or a piano and play it. And if you can do that and it can hold up, then you're kind of there, and
Mhm.
that's what any song on this record you could do that with. Um,
Well, that's great.
so that's kind of where we're coming from, is to not put any. I couldn't do it. I mean, not knowingly or intentionally put anything on a record that I felt like, oh boy, that's not quite there, but let's just fill it up, put another one on there. I couldn't do it. I mean, I'd be so uncomfortable. I couldn't sleep at night if I did that intentionally.
All right, well, I'm going to leave you with one last thing here. I just was
Okay.
wondering, you can mention or a plug or give us any other things that you're planning on doing throughout the next year or so.
Uh, Touring with Alcatrazz for sure. And we're writing already. So the writing is really important to me. So I'm going to be putting a lot of effort into that over the next several months. On the road, we put stuff together. I carry my gear on the road. We can record in a hotel room.
Hmm.
uh, so Joe and I put this last touring we did. We cut 3 songs in Australia. We cut 3 songs in Finland. We were all over the place, demos, but really good, complete pieces of music. Um, and I've got the equipment to do that. So be the same thing this time. We'll probably in England, we have some days off. So I think in England we'll be writing and putting down ideas already for another record, and which is great because that's kind of what I'm talking about. We'll end up with this next time. We'll end up with 25 songs to pick from, and even though we may have 25, typically as we get closer to getting started, somebody comes up with something, and that's what happened this time. Doogie had songs that weren't there in the very beginning, and then they just sort of surfaced. And Doogie said, "Hey, what about this one?" And then he had, it's like, holy shit. And so we did them, and they bumped something else off because they were better. And nobody's got egos about that. Like, well, I wrote that. Oh, we don't want to get rid of that, So not at all. So this time we'll be writing. I'm going to spend a lot of this time writing. Really, I don't have any projects lined up. I want to put a lot more effort into just myself, just writing. I don't really want to produce anybody. I don't want to do a record with anybody else or anything like that. I mean, I'll do a little session work here and there, but I really want to concentrate on writing for Alcatrazz.
All
So
right.
I'll probably go to Boston and work with Joe after we get off the road. Right after Christmas, I'll go back and work with him. And I don't know if I'll get to Edinburgh or not to work with Doogie, but Doogie and I'll work. We work good on Zoom and Skype and WhatsApp, and he's a real. We did on this album. We there was a song that I'd written actually that he really liked, and that he said I love this song. I love it. He said I'm just have one note, one problem, one chord. So I played it on piano. Doogie's on the phone. We weren't even looking at each other, and I'm playing the piano here in the studio. So I start playing the song top to bottom, and Doogie goes, right there, that chord right there. And I said, okay. And he goes, listen to this note I'm singing. And he sings the note. And I went, oh, you're right, Doogie, that should be a major chord, not a minor chord. So I just changed the chord on the spot. And in 3 minutes, Doogie and I had fixed the song, and he finished it, and away we went. So we'll do some more of that.
All right. Well, I definitely appreciate your time here, and good luck with everything. Blackthorne CD now that it's out here, and then the new Alcatrazz album that we're going to be getting in October. Good luck with everything.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Joseph.
All right. All
All
right.
right.
Yep. You take care.
Okay, you too. Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
All right.
Bye.